Let me backtrack there. I guess space is probably more.
Yeah, space is the Antarctica of the sky. Okay.
I need that on a t-shirt.
Maybe that's the name of this episode.
I'd be down with that.
Space, the Antarctica of the sky.
Amazing. Maybe your best quote.
This is my best quote ever in the history of all the podcasts. Welcome back to the Cinema Clubhouse podcast. I am Travis.
And I'm Will.
And today we are closing out our bracket in the bracket series with Horror, Will.
Had to be horror, Travis.
Had to be horror. One more bracket for our March movie madness.
Yep.
And horror was the way it had to be.
Yeah. Just feel like there's three kind of pillars.
Yeah.
Action, comedy, gotta do a horror.
Gotta have a horror in there. So we will continue this series. Same rules apply. We will randomly draw the matchups from the green hat of destiny. And then we'll debate on who moves on and who does not.
Let's hope the fates are kinder to us than they were the last time.
I
Travis.
think these matchups are a little kinder already.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. I think it's time to just jump in, Will.
I'm not counting my chickens, Travis, but we'll see.
Don't count them.
All right, let's get right into it.
Here we go. Matchup number one.
Matchup one, we have The Exorcist.
Oh, my
Starting off with a hitter versus Cabin in the Woods.
Wow.
You know, I think I might have jinxed us, Travis.
Yeah, geez, I guess it can be a bad matchup.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one's tricky to kind of debate.
It's tricky because Cabin in the Woods is obviously a little more silly, a little more less taken less seriously than The Exorcist as a horror. But I mean, it has all the elements that you would want in a horror movie, and I love the concept of that movie. It's so good.
I love Cabin in the Woods.
I would love to revisit the world and show some of the other countries how they do it, or just other people that draw monsters and see what happens. I think it'd be fun. So, but The Exorcist is also a staple in the horror genre.
Yeah, I mean The Exorcist has the reputation it has for a reason. Right. I mean, I just watched it recently. It still holds up.
Yeah.
The makeup, special effects still hold up after 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, when you think of like demon possession movie, probably the first one to come up for a lot of people.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think this is one kind of like we talked about in the action bracket.
Right.
When you think of action, Die Hard is one of the first movies that comes to your mind. And I think with horror, The Exorcist is one of the first movies that also comes to mind. Yeah.
I mean, when you like split up the subgenres of horror, The Exorcist fills one of those spots.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, tough matchup. The Exorcist scared the holy Lord out of me when I watched it the first time. And like you said, rewatching it still holds up.
Yeah.
And it's still solid. But I love Cabin in the Woods. So
Cabin in the Woods, it's
tough.
It's a weird comparison because, you have this pillar in The Exorcist of like a certain subgenre of the horror genre.
Yeah.
Whereas Cabin in the Woods is in and of itself a slasher.
Yeah.
But it contains more than just the slasher genre. And it's basically a deconstruction of just the horror genre in general.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to spoil the rest of the bracket, but it's one of two movies on here that are kind of thought of as like the quintessential horror comedies, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's tough. I love the how it doesn't take itself too seriously and kind of leans into all the horror tropes and typical things. So it's tough, but I think for me, I have to go Exorcist as horror. I think it just defined the genre when horror movies really didn't have like a heavy hitter. It was kind of, they all fit in the same box, and I feel like this one kind of stepped over the line and was taken more seriously as a horror genre movie. So
yeah, I would tend to agree. I think just from a personal standpoint, I prefer Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely watched Cabin in the Woods more.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it's hard to make that comparison between, you know, a horror that's taking itself seriously, whereas the other one is, like I said, the deconstruction.
Yeah.
It's scary in its own right.
Oh yeah.
But it's also leans, I think, more into the comedy.
Yeah.
And I almost wish this was a matchup more between kind of similar styles. But I think for the simple sake of legacy, it hurts me to do it.
Yeah.
But I would agree. I think eliminating Exorcist this early on would be a mistake.
I think so too. So I think, unfortunately, Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
God, I'm so sorry. I was hoping you'd go pretty far, but
I know
the number one seed.
Other matchups it might have.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the way these brackets
Exorcist goes on. All right, well, next matchup.
Round number 2. We have, if I can pick them out, we've got Get Out.
Get Out
versus 30 Days of Night. Another one.
Gosh dang it.
Weird matchup.
Weird matchup.
I don't feel as terribly about this one as the first matchup.
Yeah. I do love both of these movies.
Again, going for two very different things.
Yeah. And it's hard to really judge apples to apples when it's clearly not.
Yeah.
I love 30 Days of Night might be my favorite vampire movie.
I believe it's mine.
And the concept is awesome. Similar to Cabin in the Woods, the concept of it is so good, and you're just like, God, I just love this,
It's so simple.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one thing that a lot of these movies on our bracket are going to have in common is the concept is so simple.
Right.
And that's why it's so effective.
Right.
But yeah, 30 Days of Night just made vampires scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many vampire movies lean into kind of the sexy vampire.
Right. Yeah.
thing.
This one was definitely more zombie.
Animalistic.
Very just like they're coming here to kill you. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no other motive.
Yeah. They're forces of nature.
Right.
They are, still human and are not human, but they still, are not like animalistic in their like attire and stuff like that.
Right.
Like they're still like wearing clothes and stuff like that. But like really they're just like animals that emerge whenever the darkness hits.
Yeah, for sure. And then you get Jordan Peele's debut film that kind of revigorated the horror genre and gave it new life. Kind of like a unique take on the genre in a whole. Yeah. And this one's tough. This one's tough for me because I like I said, I love both of these movies.
Yeah.
I personally don't know if I can eliminate Get Out this early though.
I'm kind of in the same way.
Yeah.
Like there's so many layers to Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thing that Jordan Peele does so well is he's got that mystery box element to his movies. Yeah. At least so far. I mean, all three of his horrors have been that way where you don't really get the sense of what the movie is until you're a ways into it. Like it isn't announced for you from the start. Like this is going to be a zombie movie.
Right. You're still trying to figure out what is the movie and what is the situation they're going to have to go against.
And his movies are hard to classify as a specific like subgenre of horror too.
Right.
Like I would say Get Out is kind of psychological horror. Yeah. That's like probably how I would categorize it.
Yeah, for sure. And then 30 Days of Night is just more kind of gory slasher feeling, just it's a survival.
Vampire survival horror, yeah.
As much as I love 30 Days of Night, I think Get Out moves on here.
Yeah. I think there's more to be said about Get Out later on. And, again, it comes down to the matchups. Unfortunately, Get Out is just too strong of a contender.
It's too strong. All right, Get Out moves on. All right. What a shame. I was hoping 30 Days of Night and Cabin in the Woods would make it further, but
I know.
God, unfortunate matchups.
I know. All right. We have some interesting matchups building for round 2, though.
That's for sure.
All right.
Next one.
Next matchup. We have The Conjuring
Okay.
versus Insidious.
Okay.
Amazing.
How did we do that?
You know what? This one's only fair.
That one is fair. This one's pretty
It's
on the
kind of what I
same-
was hoping would happen
Yeah.
with Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, this is on the same kind of level.
Yeah. Same director.
Same director. Both very good horror movies. Very good.
Yeah, one with a little more of well, I mean, they're both basically demonic possession movies. One takes place more modern day, has kind of a different take on like spirits.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas I'm not talking about Insidious there, then Conjuring
Right.
is much more your typical like historical, like based on a true story.
Yeah.
But yeah, both both very scary.
Mm-hmm.
I think two of the like purest scary movies.
Yeah.
I think in the whole bracket.
Both have Patrick Wilson.
Both have Patrick Wilson.
Or Will Arnett, as my brother-in-law always thinks.
Oh no, I would see that. Which one should Will Arnett?
That's
be in?
another list. We'll replace Patrick Wilson's filmography with Will Arnett. And is it still great?
I would see Will Arnett's Conjuring.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, but again, very very even matchup here.
Mm-hmm.
It had been a bit since I had seen Insidious. I watched it again recently just as a refresher.
Yeah,
such a cool concept.
It's a cool concept and kind of like a unique take on how the kid's just like stuck in this. He's stuck in the like possession the whole time, basically.
Yeah. So
that makes it even harder to watch because you're just like there's no break.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like with a lot of horror movies, there's when it's daytime you're okay, but when it's nighttime, but this kid
daytime's almost worse.
Yeah, daytime is almost worse.
Yeah,
and
honestly, it's kind of similar with Conjuring too. I mean, some of the bigger scares of the movie happen during the day.
Right. I think this is as evenly matched a matchup as we could get.
Yeah, and
honestly, I don't have
I'm leaning one way. And I think it just and I think similar to the action bracket and the comedy bracket where we had to base some decisions based on just pure action,
right?
Pure comedy.
Yeah.
I think I'm leaning one way in this because one I think just scares me a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
The scares in it are just a little more scary.
Right.
And for me that's The Conjuring.
Yeah.
There's just I feel like there's more like Conjuring was more in the zeitgeist than Insidious.
Yeah.
They came out similar time. I think Insidious came out first, but
yeah. Both spawned franchises.
But yeah, there's I think more iconic moments from the first Conjuring movie that just kind of stick with me, like the clap.
Yeah.
Or the coming out of the chest of drawers.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm on the other side, I think, because the scares for me are more on the Insidious side.
I mean, they both have very scary moments.
The Darth Maul face is just, and when they play Tiptoe Through the Tulips, that song has haunted my dreams and my wife's dreams ever since the movie came out.
Yeah.
So I think I'm leaning Insidious. So I think we're going to have our first tiebreaker.
It was inevitable, Travis.
It has to
especially
happen.
With the matchup this
this evenly matched.
Yeah.
I think you have to lean to overtime and a tiebreaker to see what can happen. We will start with The Conjuring. 86%.
Okay.
It's a pretty high score.
That's pretty high.
Is it beatable? I'm not sure. And moving on is The Conjuring. Insidious, 66%.
Interesting. Okay.
So Conjuring moves on.
All right.
Sorry, Insidious. I tried.
All right. Next matchup we have Scream.
All right.
Versus
Do it, Will.
Paranormal Activity.
Wow.
I feel like we're going to go back and forth on this one, Travis.
Yeah, that's a interesting first round matchup.
Again, it's so different.
So different.
One I think is maybe similar to the Exorcist, kind of the pillar of the found footage horror.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think. I mean, Paranormal Activity is the found footage horror.
I mean, Blair Witch was first, but I mean, I think Paranormal is way better, in my opinion, than Blair Witch.
Yeah.
And it kind of reinvented that. Like, you can make a horror movie like this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, going back, I think they came out in 07.
Yeah.
And then you can just, so many movies followed that same thing. And then Scream is kind of like Cabin in the Woods, where it's like not trying to take itself too seriously, making fun of the typical horror genre, like slasher film, but also is one in itself too. So
yeah, it's the meta horror movie.
Yeah.
Like it's its own genre in and of itself, kind of. It's kind of a split genre between slasher and meta horror.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love Scream. It's probably my favorite like entire horror franchise.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it works equally as well as like the scary slasher. Like Ghostface is generally scary. Yeah. And like as the movies progress throughout the series, I think they make him even scarier.
Yeah.
But the great thing about the Scream series is like Ghostface is never the same.
Right.
And so for that reason, like the banter is never quite the same.
Right. You can kind of keep going to the well, but it's different because it is different.
But I love how it keeps reinventing itself, just being self-aware of like just the horror genre in general and what the tropes are, and like purposely following those tropes.
Yeah.
This one is. I definitely am leaning fairly heavily one way with this one.
Yeah.
But
I'm probably leaning the other way.
The other way. I figure we might go that way again.
Yeah.
But yeah, Paranormal Activity I had not seen until recently. For one reason or another, I have not seen it.
You avoided it.
I avoided it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very creative. It's genuinely scary.
Yeah. I mean, it's to me one of the scariest movies because the lack of ever seeing what's actually going on, and the fear of it could be in this room with us right now and we don't know. With Scream, obviously, when Ghostface is in the room. So the element of like mystery is gone, but I mean still has, but I think to me that I may not have been more scared in my life than when I watched Paranormal the first time because of when I watched it.
Yeah.
And then what happened while I was watching it just made the circumstances even worse. So I think I have to go Paranormal.
I thought we did it this way. Yeah. It's Scream's one. It's like Cabin in the Woods. It was tough to let it go.
Yeah.
Scream's a little bit harder. Just I want that flavor around just a little bit longer.
Yep. So for that tiebreaker, back-to-back tiebreakers.
This one I honestly don't know.
I honestly have no idea either. Paranormal Activity, 83%. Banger. Oh, that's dumb. Not that one.
Oh yeah, there's multiple movies named Scream. We're talking about the first.
Yes,
Scream.
The first Scream. Yeah. And moving on with an 83% is Paranormal Activity.
Ooh.
Scream 77%.
Interesting. Okay. A little more even so far. The first bracket, you got all the tiebreakers. Last time I got all the tiebreakers.
I don't think we can ever have back to back where the same person gets all the tiebreakers.
I know.
But hey, we split it this time, so
yeah,
it's better than
let's
most.
hope no more tiebreakers.
Yeah, let's hope.
I fear probably not, but
yeah, I'm thinking of the ones that are left.
We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see. All right,
tiebreaker.
The next one we have Alien.
It's gonna happen, Will. You know it's gonna happen.
What's gonna happen?
The only one it could be matched up with where you could compare it.
Hereditary.
Oh, you tricked me. You tricked me, Will. Okay.
Man.
Golly.
This is another one where I am disappointed with the matchup because both of these I foresaw at least making it to round 2.
Kind of same.
Yeah.
We'll break it down like this.
Okay. Break it down for me, Travis.
I'll break it down. Alien started a franchise and started, a lot. It influenced a lot. It was that, first movie I remember of that survival in one location with one monster.
Yeah.
At least that I saw.
Yeah.
And genuinely terrifying because you're just like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
And the alien is cool as hell. Like the design is so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
All right. Then we go to the other side with Hereditary, who just, psychological.
It's not a fun watch.
No, you don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But you do appreciate what it's doing.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate ride you have to go on when you watch it.
Ride.
I think this movie scarred me. Has a scarring scene.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. If you don't, good luck.
Yeah.
It's a weird matchup because very, very different movies.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can compare anything.
Yeah.
But Hereditary, to me, Hereditary and Get Out of this new genre of horror movie and kind of a new, I don't know what you call it, new playlist of horror that's just
I like that.
messes with your mind, genuinely scares you, but it doesn't follow rules. It's not like a slasher or this type of movie. It's like its own thing that you can't describe.
It definitely is. It definitely fits into a certain genre, but like you said, it does kind of play by its own rules. I think more than any other movie on this bracket, it made me viscerally feel something that none of the others.
I felt
did.
sick.
Yeah.
Sick. Not like I was going to throw up, but I just didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And uneasy and just.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was going for.
Oh, for sure.
It nails it.
He completely achieved what he was going for. Talking about Ari Aster.
Yeah.
It's one of those that kind of it stretches the definition of horror a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Not necessarily in a way that it's breaking the rules necessarily.
Right.
But it's the horror is just that uneasiness that you mentioned and just the general dread.
Mm-hmm.
I would call it the more dread than horror. It has some horror elements in it, but it's just
I've obviously seen Alien way more.
Yeah, because you
than
don't
Hereditary.
watch
Because Hereditary is one you watched it and you're like, yep, I've seen it.
Yep.
And then you tell other people to watch it, but you're like, you can go ahead and just watch on your own.
I think it rightfully belongs on this bracket.
Absolutely. Kind of tough for me. I think just on horror, the unsettling feeling I got after watching it, I've never had a movie do that to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I have to acknowledge what it did.
Yeah.
I think I'm leaning Hereditary.
Interesting.
Even though I don't want to. I love Alien. I love the Alien movies. But
yeah. I'm going to try and talk this one out because I might agree with you. But Alien is it's just so it's one of the first movies that comes to mind for me when I think horror. Like you said, the impact of it, it's to this day they're still making Alien movies, and that was 45 years ago.
They're never going to make a Hereditary 2, probably.
I hope not.
I hope not. I don't want to see it.
Yeah. And so
you're right, Will.
I know. I mean, we've talked before about the impact.
Yeah.
Hereditary obviously had its own impact. We're kind of talking about the new brand of horror.
It gave Ari Aster a platform somehow.
Yeah.
And people
for
keep
better or worse.
People keep letting him make movies.
Yeah.
I think you're right though. I think you're using my thing against me is where the impact has to weigh in on this because what's more defining for the genre?
I do think that's also along the same lines. You have to almost sit on a movie for a little bit.
Yeah.
When it comes to these kind of arguments, because it's like Hereditary is not even a decade old yet.
Right.
I think was it 2018 or something like that?
Something like that.
So,
I know the night I watched it was right before me and my buddy Zach started it. Case Keenum threw the touchdown to Diggs to beat the Saints.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, that craziest thing just happened. And then we watched that. And I was like, just kidding.
Yeah.
Now the craziest thing just happened.
That's a roller coaster of emotions right
there. It was a rough night.
Yeah. I
think you're right, though. Both of these deserve to move on to the next round.
Again, I hate the matchup happen now because I could see.
I don't know if Alien
four.
Can be off the list though.
That's kind of where I'm leaning. Unfortunately, I didn't want to go to another tiebreaker.
I think I agree with you though. Like as much as I initially said Hereditary, but you're right.
Yeah.
What I always bring up is the impact it has on a genre, and it's like, do we get to Hereditary if Alien is removed? I know they don't.
And it has one of the greatest movie taglines of all time.
That's right.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
Yeah. Which is so true.
No, it's true.
No one can.
Having been there.
Having been there and screaming, no one helped.
Yeah.
You've convinced me. I think Alien has to move on.
Okay. I thought we were going to go to a third straight tiebreaker.
I don't think we can.
All right.
That's just too not fair.
All right.
Okay, Alien moves on. Sorry, Hereditary, just an unfortunate mashup for you.
Yeah, I mean, pound for pound in terms of...
I think Hereditary definitely scared me more than Alien.
For sure.
Because I think I just really like the xenomorph design, and I think it's really cool. I didn't like anything in Hereditary. I'm like, that was sick. I'm like, no, yeah, that was sick.
Yeah.
But not for the good way. So, all right, there we have it.
Aliens on.
Next matchup, Will.
I'm starting to forget what we had on the list.
I only remember one more, and I know there's a lot more than one.
We have Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
The original Halloween.
Of course.
Versus, I can't find it, The Descent. Man,
wow.
Another matchup I hate. You know what?
Have we liked any of the matchups, really?
I underestimated the pain
I did too. I
cause.
looked at all of ours that we had and was like, I don't think really any matchup will kill me.
Yeah.
Wrong. Every one is
It's been tough.
Pretty tough. Elephant in the room, I've never seen Halloween.
Okay.
I do know enough of what happens and enough references to understand what happens, but I've never experienced it for myself.
And just so we're clarifying, similar to the Scream franchise, we're talking about the first Halloween.
The original.
Because there's another Halloween in the series named Halloween.
It's so confusing. Guys,
I hate that so much.
Can you just get a little creative?
It's awful. I don't understand.
All right, Will, when we release our movie, the fourth one will have the same name as the first one.
Okay, so yeah, this is going to be a tough argument just because there's
obviously way more Halloween fans, and Halloween has impacted a generation that probably most viewers have never heard of The Descent or even know what it is. That's probably the case.
Yeah. It's this is interesting because on the one hand, I think when I'm like making a favorites list of horror movies, Halloween tops The Descent usually for me.
Yeah.
However, I'm open to discussion on this one. I think there are more slashers to come that could be discussed that I might prefer more.
Yeah.
And thinking about the progression of the bracket, that might be where I'm open to discussing an upset here.
Yeah, well,
because I do think it would be an upset if we make the decision we make.
Oh, absolutely. I think it would. Again, like I said, if you've heard of The Descent, like this video because I
might be my friend.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't know it. I think it came out in like 2005 5,
Yeah.
6, something around there.
Yeah.
Very, very scary.
Yeah.
About these group of women that go spelunking into caves.
Spelunking's a good word.
Spelunking is a good word. That's the name of this episode.
Please don't.
Spelunking. You can try it now. Okay. No, it's just terrifying. I remember me and my brother-in-law watched this at our uncle's house for the first time. He's like, "Oh, you got to see this," and golly, it's
wild,
terrifying. It's so scary.
Yeah, it's like 2 levels of horror.
Oh yeah,
because you have the initial, like, if you're claustrophobic.
Oh yeah,
it's
gonna be rough for you.
It's a rough watch. And they lean into the claustrophobia.
They do. And this is one of those, survive in the one location the whole movie.
Yeah.
But you're in a cave in the pitch black, which is just a place you don't want to be ever.
I think what's so brilliant about The Descent is they use that darkness for the storytelling. Like,
oh yeah.
What I mean by that is, like, the cave is pitch black.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to use infrared lights.
Yeah.
What can we show you in infrared lights that's way scarier than using like real like camera lights and stuff?
Yeah.
How about we introduce these like mole creatures? Oh. Like they're already stuck in a cave trying to find their way out, and
and by the way,
it's also
this is where feature. Satan's pets live.
yeah. Satan's pets, exactly.
It's just so scary. The whole movie's tense. I mean, the movie starts off with a shocking car accident.
Yeah.
Shocking. And that jump scare gets you because it's out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then you never recover from that initial, like, oh my gosh. And then it just gets
on top of the 2 levels of horror, you also have that story element with the main character. And it's almost not necessarily completely, but in a way, sort of a revenge tale.
Yeah, kind of, but
sort of.
Well, and it has a good story.
Yeah.
But the depression you feel from the beginning, that never goes away. No. And there's no, just like them in the cave, there's no light, and there's no like time to a break. It's just it's all bad the whole time.
Yeah.
Now flip it to the Halloween side. Here's my problem.
Okay.
It's leaning into what has it done for the genre thing, which we already used.
Sure. In
the last matchup. I think there are slashers that are better than it. I like better.
Yeah.
Since I've never seen it, but
yeah.
I know enough about Michael Myers and the story, but to where I don't want it to be slasher matchups the whole time. So I think I'm leaning for the upset just because of what's to come.
Yeah.
And The Descent legitimately terrified me.
Yeah. Again, I think I'm leaning the upset here. We talked the legacy argument before. And I think it's warranted here. Again, I think on any given day, I'd say Halloween is my preferred of the 2. But again, thinking of the bracket matchups, kind of more discussion to come. He made the top 16. Michael Myers did for a reason,
right?
But I think this is just one of those. He caught the wrong underdog.
Yeah, he got the wrong team with the wrong fire under their bellies to just kill this.
Just kind of coasted.
Yeah.
And
they didn't plan for them. They were looking ahead, I think.
They were looking ahead.
And every March Madness, there is an upset.
Yeah.
So
this is like a 3-14.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And the 14 pulled the upset.
And everyone's bracket is ruined.
Yeah, wrecked. I think a lot of people might have Halloween and their brackets going a lot farther.
Oh yeah, probably to the top. And so therefore continue watching our video, but The Descent moves on.
Don't go away. All right, Travis.
Okay.
Next matchup of the first round, we have The Sixth Sense versus It.
You're like, there's nothing on this
There's
paper.
nothing here. Woo!
Wow.
Another crazy one.
Crazy matchup. Very hard to compare the two.
Well, there's actually more similarities, I think, in this matchup.
Please explain to me.
All right. So obviously, you've got demonic clown versus, a ghost story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
you said it. Exact same thing.
Exact same thing.
All ghost or demonic clowns.
No, I think what's interesting about this one, the reason I say there's more alike than you think, and we're talking about It Chapter 1.
Yes, the remake.
Yeah, the remake,
not the
Chapter
movie
1.
TV.
Yeah, not the TV 80s movie,
yeah.
and not part 2 of the new.
Right.
We're talking about Chapter 1 with, the children as the leads.
Yes.
I think that's one similarity the two have in common. You're kind of the leads of the story the kids are leading it.
Kids are driving the story.
Kids are driving the story, and I think that's inherently what makes the two scarier.
Mm-hmm.
Like why I prefer It Chapter 1 to 2 is because I think it's scarier through the eyes of children than it is to the adults.
Absolutely.
I think the second one kind of devolves a little bit too much into just jump scare. But yeah, I think that's why it has a little bit in common. And I know ghosts and demons, not the same thing, but there's similar kind of, it's fantastical things that are happening, but they are still happening for these children.
Right.
They're both experiencing kind of like traumatic ghosts or demons or, whatever Pennywise conjures up.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I think there's more in common.
I got it.
Again, still kind of different from a story structure, like, and both start off with a trauma.
Both start off with a trauma. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, it embodies everything you want in a horror movie. And The Sixth Sense is so creative.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like the twist that, when you watch that is just mind blowing. It's similar to like how I felt when I watched The Matrix for the first time. Like just like my mind didn't even know this could happen.
Same year.
There you go. And it made M. Night Shyamalan's career happen. I mean,
still probably his best film.
Yeah.
I think I may lean Unbreakable on some days and Sixth Sense on the other.
Yeah, it depends on the day, but they're both just bangers.
Yeah.
Weird matchup.
Yeah.
Weird matchup. I really don't know. Like I can see both of them moving on, so it doesn't. I think as just a horror movie, it captures that better than The Sixth Sense does. But again, you're still trying to figure out what's going on the whole time, and it is scary.
Yeah,
it's just not as horror driven.
Yeah, it's more of a drama.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the great horror movies are drama first, and that's kind of almost what makes the scary part scarier.
Yeah.
I think I am leaning a certain way with this one, and it might be unfair. It might be an unfair argument, but I'm going to make it anyways.
Make it.
Whereas I think It Chapter 1 has more genuinely scary moments. I do hold the second one against it a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, it might be an unfair argument to make.
I don't think it is because it's technically one story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think The Sixth Sense was just so shocking and like impacted the culture like drastically.
Yeah.
And never really had a movie do what that did. Like I still enjoyed even knowing the twist.
Yeah.
Some movies it's not as enjoyable.
Did you see it the first time without knowing the twist?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was shocking.
It always bums me out when people know the twist going into it.
Yeah,
But it makes the rewatch really fun.
yeah. I think I'm slightly leaning Sixth Sense.
I'm ever so slightly as well. I think Sixth Sense is going to come up against some heavy hitters next round.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll see how the arguments fall. But again, I think just because, despite it being slightly scarier,
Yeah,
I think ultimately looking big picture, it just kind of falls apart. So.
Yep. Sixth Sense moves on. Sorry, Pennywise.
All right, we've got our final round one matchup.
I know what one of them is. I can't remember what the other one is.
I as well know one.
I bet we know the. Oh, I know it. I got it.
I'm Yoda, apparently.
Yeah.
All right. We have Nightmare on Elm Street. Once again, we're talking about the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Johnny Depp's debut film.
Johnny Depp's debut versus, if I can pick it out, versus The Thing. Oh, wow. This is a...
Peak Craven, peak Carpenter.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a matchup. That's a good matchup.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I would almost argue that Pete Carpenter and Pete Craven have both been eliminated from the bracket.
There you go.
But no, they both equally have an argument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The you're not safe when you go to bed. Nightmare on Elm Street element is just terrifying.
Yeah.
Trying to stay awake so you can stay alive is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's a great slasher film. It's a great, it achieves everything that it needs to. And The Thing is just so unique and different, similar to a lot of these where it's just like, hey, we're in this situation, we got to survive. There's one monster. Similar to Alien, similar to The Descent.
Yeah.
Just like we're stuck.
Yeah.
30 Days of Night also.
Not much more remote than Antarctica.
No, that's as far remote as you can get.
Yeah.
Great.
No help coming your way.
Great Kurt Russell performance.
Well, let me backtrack there. I guess space is probably more remote.
Space is the Antarctica of the sky. Okay.
I need that on a t-shirt.
Maybe that's the name of this episode.
I'd be down with that.
Space, the Antarctica of the sky.
Amazing. Maybe your best quote.
This is my best quote ever in the history of all the podcasts. I don't even know where I'm at anymore, Will.
Yeah, The Thing versus A Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm sorry, I derailed you.
No, I derailed myself.
Yeah.
I love The Thing. I love Nightmare on Elm Street. Again, both you got to be in a certain mood to watch, I think.
Oh yeah.
The Thing, the practical effects are so good, but they're also just so over the top that you're just like, this is hard to take in.
I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street is pretty over the top.
Yeah, it is. It is as well.
But it's a dream.
It's a dream, so it makes sense. Freddy Krueger is an icon in horror.
Yeah.
A lot of people have The Thing on their list too. So
there's a reason both of these are on here.
Yeah, there is definitely a close matchup. Like,
yeah,
I can see the argument for both.
Yeah.
I think personally I was more scared of Freddy Krueger when I was a kid than The Thing. Because you didn't know what The Thing really was.
You still don't really.
Still don't know. And Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's interesting because, The Thing is very singular.
Mm-hmm.
It does not need sequels that I'm aware of. But
no, I think they did a remake.
They did a remake,
in 2011 or something.
But yeah, like you said, the creature effects and design are really cool in The Thing. Nightmare on Elm Street, like you said, just the concept. The concept is horrifying itself. Like, you can't even escape Freddy Krueger. I mean, Freddy Krueger lives in your escape.
That's right. Yeah. Your getaway is
Yeah,
his presence.
exactly. So like, whereas like, I think there are some campy elements to A Nightmare on Elm Street, and increasingly so throughout the series.
Yeah.
I do think just that core concept. He's in my top 2 slasher icons.
Yeah.
Any given day I go a certain way, but I alluded earlier in the bracket that we talk about Michael Myers, like obviously he's established his legacy, but there's others that I might prefer.
And we eliminated him from the list.
Freddy Krueger is who I was talking about.
Oh yeah.
And so even though The Thing is great in its own right, I do think it's. I know I made the opposite argument earlier, but almost too simplistic.
Yeah.
At times, like it almost. I feel like the movie can drag a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely has some slower moving parts, and they definitely could have sped some things up. I think, again, a lot of people who have their top horror movies, we've probably already eliminated one, and we might be getting ready to eliminate your number 2. But I think Freddy has to move on.
He's got to. I mean, we
can't eliminate Michael Myers and
he's
Freddy
the
Krueger.
last remaining slasher icon on this whole bracket right now.
Yeah, and being as Johnny Depp is one of my favorite actors of all time, I got to go with his debut.
Had a hell of a gruesome death.
Yes, he did. All right, Elite 8.
Elite 8.
Elite 8.
The bracket's officially set in motion.
All right, now it gets horrible from here.
It's been tough so far. I feel like there are way more brutal matchups.
A lot more harder decisions than I thought. And again, I think everything boils down in the way we're doing our bracket is the matchups.
Yeah.
And so we can't really prepare not knowing what's coming.
Yeah.
And so we have an idea, but then you're like, well, those didn't even meet. And so I don't even know now.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Travis. Elite 8.
All right.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. First matchup.
We've got The Exorcist versus Get Out.
All right. Jeez.
This is one, man, I feel like it's tough because on the one hand, I made the argument in the first about the legacy of The Exorcist, and it still holds up.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe the first one that comes to mind when you think of demonic possession movies.
Oh yeah, it's the staple in exorcisms
and then you have Get Out, which
I'll argue this though. Mm-hmm. This might be Jordan Peele's legacy, just like The Exorcist was. You know what I'm saying? Like 20 years from now, we might be looking back and like, this is a staple in the horror genre.
I think it already is. I mean, it's like I mentioned about Hereditary earlier, we're still not even 10 years into, its longevity.
Right.
But I do think it already has lasting effect. It, I think, is one of the first movies that pops in people's head when you kind of think of the like prestige horror, like the new generation of horror movies.
Yeah, for sure.
Writing in it's incredible.
Yeah, it's an incredible movie. It's really good.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Peele is going to be like the John Carpenter, the Wes Craven of his generation. And
I think he already kind of is.
I think he already is. And I already think he's an icon in the horror genre. And he came out with a banger.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough one. Like I said, I think The Exorcist is one of the few movies made when it was made that just still holds up as what it was made for. The genre it was made for.
Yeah. And
it still holds up, which is very impressive and hard to do.
Yeah.
I definitely enjoy Get Out more.
I think I do too.
I don't think I'm ever like Exorcist. Like, I'm never like that. I think to me, Get Out is going to inspire. Well, I think The Exorcist obviously inspired. Probably Get Out. Like, do we get Out without The Exorcist?
Probably not. I mean,
probably not.
Going for very different things. I mean, I think The Exorcist, and this is just off the cuff, not really researching what all came before it, but to my knowledge, at least, it kind of created that like religious horror sort of trend of the 70s. Like, a lot of that kind of spawned back to The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And like the 70s were awesome for horror, and a lot of it was because of The Exorcist.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of the Elite Eight matchups, there's going to be an icon where you're like, do we get the one it's against without it?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is no.
Yeah.
Like all the newer ones on our list don't happen without, what the final four should probably be with what's remaining. And so my heart, it's a hard decision. I was already the guy that eliminated Halloween from a list and The Thing, and it's like, am I gonna do it again? Good things is this is our bracket and our podcast, so we can do whatever we want. I think I'm leaning Get Out.
Wow, I can't believe you're doing that, Travis.
I think I am.
Can I confess something?
Yeah.
I think I am too.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's, again, it might be another unfair argument, but there is something to be said about the way movies age.
Mm-hmm.
And while I said that The Exorcist does still hold up for sure.
Yeah.
Like I just watched it recently, and it still holds up. The effects look great.
Yeah.
It's still genuinely scary. I do think there is a little bit of element of age to it as well, where in terms of the kind of horror that it is, some do it a little bit better for me.
Yeah. And again, I think this is our opinion of this list.
Yeah.
And I think I want Get Out to move on.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want The Exorcist. It's just an unfortunate matchup.
I'm interested in the conversation.
I just think with some of these other matchups, if they are all icons of the genre, when we get to the final four, it's going to be a slugfest.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a team that upsets somebody to break up the, to save the number one seed from meeting the number two seed, So I think Get Out moves on.
I think it does.
Insane.
Kind of crazy, Travis.
We are crazy here at Cinema Clubhouse.
We are madmen.
All right.
Next matchup, we have The Conjuring versus Paranormal Activity.
Wow. Okay.
Another, it's not similar in its execution, but of the same genre.
Yeah.
Demonic possession.
Demonic ghost,
Yeah.
That one's tough. Both are, and again, I think this was like new horror. These two kind of, I equate it to like when The Hangover came out. Like you had all of these comedies like that. Well, when Paranormal came out, you had all these horror movies like that. And The Conjuring wasn't like that, but it still felt in that same breath.
It felt fresh.
Yeah, and it felt like horror is reinvented, and these are the new ones.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
One of these genuinely scares me more.
Mm-hmm.
But one of them I think is definitely more influential. I guess influential on the genre itself.
Yeah.
Conjuring, I think, is the scarier movie.
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity, I think, is the kind of new direction for the genre.
And I think it's just what makes it scary is how simple it is.
Yeah.
Like there's just not a lot of answers, not a lot of questions, but there's a lot that happens, and you're just like,
yeah.
But again, I go back to they're both terrifying. They both scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I think if you remove Paranormal Activity, it deletes maybe 100 horror movies.
Yeah.
It deletes a whole genre, a subgenre of horror.
Yeah.
Like I don't like if that never came around, I think Blair Witch might be the standalone kind of low budget found footage. I know there might be some to come around and try it, but again, this is the one that hit, which made everyone think, "Oh, we can do this." The Conjuring was more of a typical and based on some true documents, true events that happened.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It is. Scary,
They're both
Travis.
scary.
Yeah, this one's tough for me because, like I said, Conjuring does scare me more. Paranormal Activity, I have to recognize impact. It always comes back to that.
It always comes back to impact. Unless you're the Exorcist.
I feel like I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I'm not sure what's tipping the scales for me here.
They're both so evenly matched that it's tough. I think the slightest edge goes to Paranormal for me, just because of how I felt afterwards and how scared I was. And I just watched it last night or a couple nights ago, and it's still scary.
Yeah, it's
still scary, even though you know it's coming. You're like, God, that's still.
It's very effective for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, because I'm so flip of a coin on this one, I think I'll concede the argument to Paranormal.
Yeah.
I think this is a pretty wild one to make the Final Four.
Yeah.
But you know
definitely
what? We've made some crazy choices so far, Travis.
Yeah.
Why not continue it?
Why not stop it?
Other brackets we went much more chalk. I feel like.
Yeah, the horror one is definitely more underdog driven, I think.
There's a lot of broken brackets in this one.
Yeah.
All right,
next one.
Next one, we've got a similar kind of vibe again. We've got the original Alien versus The Descent. Yeah.
One location. Underground Antarctica.
Creature feature. Yeah.
Can't keep using that.
I know. Creature feature.
To me, this one's simple.
I agree.
I don't think we need to waste much time in this. The Descent moves on. I'm just kidding.
I had to process that for a second. Yeah, I want to give a nod to this Descent here.
Yeah. Hey, you guys made it to the Lead Eight.
The final 8. And I think worthy.
Yeah. And if you have not seen it, go check it out. It's a fun, sweet ride.
And you know what? It may be one of those where, it's Travis, it's a 20-year-old movie at this point. But I feel like with even more time, maybe it becomes kind of a more beloved.
I mean, all it takes is being on Netflix at the right time of the year, and it's the number one.
Look at Suits.
Yeah. It spawned a whole new
people like
season.
Suits.
Oh wait, people like the show? They sure didn't watch it. It was on TV. It could take on a life like that, given the right circumstances. But against Alien,
I can't think horror without the xenomorph.
No, Alien has to move on. And an unfortunate Descent. You did upset your last matchup pretty shockingly.
Yeah.
But now you ran into an even bigger gauntlet, so it has to end.
They used up all their effort on Halloween.
They played the championship game the round before.
And then Halloween tenderized them for Xenomorph.
Yeah. Alien moves on.
Yeah.
Well done, Descent. We are proud of you.
Yeah.
We're proud of you for making the 16.
Kudos.
Even more proud of you making the Lead 8.
Yeah. We're not going to have a bunch of middle seeded teams in the Final Four here.
No.
We got to have some heavy hitters.
I mean, maybe according to some people we will. But
yeah, true.
All right, last matchup
to determine the Final Four. We've got The Sixth Sense versus A Nightmare on Elm Street. Again, this feels like a fairly simple decision.
Yeah.
I think we're both probably leaning Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
It's just, again, the Sixth Sense has a legacy in and of itself.
Yeah.
It
does.
It put M. Night Shyamalan on the map.
Yep.
Maybe set some unrealistic expectations for all of us.
Oh, yeah.
For M. Night.
Well, it was actually his fault.
That's
his first 3 movies. You're like, oh my gosh, this guy. And then you're like, oh. this guy.
He's more hit and miss than his first.
I think he was on a less of a leash the first 3.
Yeah.
No, more of a leash the first 3.
Right.
Less, and then it's like, oh, maybe you need the leash. Maybe you need that leash.
Yeah.
But yeah, valiant effort. Proud of you.
Yeah.
Sixth Sense, but I just think you came across a top school that is just ready for this moment, who's been here before.
Yeah.
This isn't new to them.
I mean, Haley Joel Osment sees dead people, but it hasn't come up across Freddy Krueger.
Right. Yeah, he hasn't gone to bed yet. So
Yeah.
All right. Nightmare moves on.
All right. We have a very interesting final 4 here. The way the matchups lined up, we kind of got 2 staples of the genre versus 2 upstarts, if you will.
Yeah. More underdogs.
Let's go ahead and save the heavyweight bout for the second discussion. Okay. So we'll go first match with the final 4 here. We've got Get Out versus Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
Equally tough.
Both, like new when they came out, kind of gave new energy to the horror genre. Mm-hmm. An energy that people wanted to ride the coattails of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. The thing with paranormal is it's like not a lot went into it. Mm-hmm. Like it literally could be this guy had an idea and then he went and made it himself.
Yeah. Is basically it. Yeah.
And it's effective. Get Out is so well written, so well directed. It obviously side by side it is a better movie.
I think so. That's kind of where I'm sitting with this one.
Yeah.
Where it's like, last round we acknowledged Paranormal Activity's impact and influence on the genre. I don't know that Get Out necessarily had as big an influence on the genre. Not yet. Yeah. But I do think that, what am I trying to say here? It kind of made you reimagine the horror genre a little bit. Yeah. Because I don't think that Get Out is probably in the lower tier on this bracket in terms of pure terror. Oh, yeah. Not that it doesn't have its scary moments in it. Right. But there's just so many layers to it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And different kinds of horror. And it's definitely trying to say something and it achieves it. Oh, yeah. It definitely has a message attached to it. Yeah. And more than the story of the movie. And I think that might be its influence more than anything else. Yeah. It didn't necessarily reestablish the genre in terms of in terms of the kind of horror it was better. Like it didn't introduce a different kind of horror. It didn't reinvent psychological horror necessarily. Right. But just it tapped into elements of all different kinds of horror. Yeah. But did them really well. Yeah, it did all of it well. And so I'm a huge Jordan Peele fan. I was before he started making movies. Yeah. And then you were a fan from him for different reasons. Yeah. It's a tough matchup. Paranormal is definitely way scarier. Yeah. But this bracket isn't necessarily the scariest movies of all time. There's a lot of elements that go into it. Yeah, and the horror of Get Out is strong. Yeah. I think I'm leaning Get Out. I am too. Which is kind of an upset to make the final 2, I think, out of the bracket. I think to make the final 2 for sure. Yeah. I think this matchup was won between a couple of middle seeds, not necessarily lower seeds, right? But this was a 6-7 seed, both of them that made the final 4. Yeah, they upset a lot of people along the way. Yeah, I just think Get Out is. Well, I think we got to stick with the theme of the underdogs doing well in this particular bracket. Yeah, less so than our comedy and action bracket. So I think let's stick to it until it runs out. All right. Which it might the next round. I think it's going to run out. We'll see. All right. The next one, we've got Alien versus A Nightmare on Elm Street.
both spawned franchises.
I think these were two that, given our pool, if people took a look at it, I think a lot of people had these both in the final four.
Yeah, I would think so.
And
I think The Thing and Halloween were the other two spots in their final four.
Sure.
But they didn't get our unlucky matchups like we did. Okay.
Exactly.
Because they ranked them first,
right?
So they knew the matchups,
right?
This one's tough.
Yeah, this one, I think both, have an equally lasting legacy.
Yeah,
both are staples of their specific subgenre.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your slasher, you got your creature feature.
Yeah.
Both iconic killers, monsters. I think in terms of creatures, I think the xenomorph might have more of a leg to stand on, and it's in that category than Freddy Krueger has in the slasher.
Well,
there's just more hitters in the slasher.
Yeah, and I just think how many Freddy Krueger things are there?
Yeah.
There's some, but like Alien,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's not very many Freddy Krueger video games, if any, to my knowledge. There's a ton of Alien ones,
I would play a Nightmare on Elm Street video game.
Dude, that'd be wild. You just have to stay awake.
The most effed
You have to do crazy stuff to stay awake. Oh no, you're falling asleep.
Oh no.
And you just can't win.
Like Nightmare on Elm Street VR.
Oh. But also Alien VR would be horrible as well. So
they would both be equally horrible.
I think I'm leaning one way, but this matchup is really heavy. I think both powerhouse schools that have been in championships, they've each won championships. This is not new territory for them. They're used to this. They're ready for it.
Yeah. There's one thing I'm thinking about this matchup, and I may be countering my own instinct here, but that's why we do this, right?
That's what we do.
I feel like, by and large, the Alien franchise has gotten a little repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're talking about the individual film here, so
right.
We don't necessarily have to factor that in.
Right.
It was something I kind of considered when we were talking about it earlier on.
Right.
Just kind of the...
Well, here's what we do here. Whatever we say the last round, we'll throw that away and be like, well, we forgot we said that because now it doesn't pertain to this match.
Exactly.
Because it's going a different way.
Whatever's convenient for my heart.
That's right. Choice. However we get what we want is how it's going to happen.
But that is one thing I'm considering, whereas the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise continued to reinvent itself.
Mm-hmm.
The kills became... Those were always creative.
I mean, it's in the realm of like, a Terrifier, just like this person is going to just cause the worst death to these people.
Yeah.
And that going into it, though.
And you got the dream element, so you're not limited by reality.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the alien thing is not necessarily reality either, but it's grounded in a way where, like, this is the creature. It's on our physics and whatever.
Yeah, here's where I'm leaning with Alien and Nightmare on Elm Street. Alien, to me, has 3 elements to it. Okay? You got the face hugger element, which is equally as terrifying as the alien itself.
Yeah.
So you have to survive that. All right, if that gets you, then element number 2 is the chest burster, which is horrific.
Yeah.
And anytime I had like an air pocket in my chest, it's like, I'm gonna have an alien. I'm terrified. As a kid, that terrified me.
Yeah.
And the third is now there's an alien that's coming for you or the rest of your party.
Yeah.
Freddy is just, to me, it's just one. I mean, but it's when you're most vulnerable.
You can escape the xenomorph though.
You can. Freddy's a little more challenging.
I think we're on the same page here. I prefer Alien.
Yeah.
It's so hard to compare the two because it's like, the almost zero similarity between
Yeah,
the
this
two.
is like two completely different movies.
Freddy made it this far. Again, despite the fact that the Alien franchise can get pretty repetitive, it does what it does so well.
Yeah. Well, and to me, it has a stronger group of movies than the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yeah.
As a whole, if we're gonna do that,
there's a campiness to Freddy too that almost makes me feel like I know he has the upper hand,
right?
But there's a part of me that's like, well, I could talk my way out of this.
And here's what makes Alien to me better. I like it better than Aliens, which is sometimes a hot take.
I do too.
But to me, the one Alien is scarier than
hordes.
So many, like there's too many, and I felt that way with Romulus. When it felt like one, you're like, oh man, and the second they're like, oh, there's 1,000. You're just like,
yeah,
well, that's insane.
Yeah,
like, and so I think let's see, this one thing on the ship. That's it.
Yeah,
that's to me is way more effective.
Yeah.
I think Alien has to move on. It does kind of hurt.
I concur, but when you're this far in the bracket, these kind of things happen. If this matchup was in the first round, I would have maybe shredded the bracket.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been a first round. Thankful not. All right, we got our final two.
Another kind of surprise visit versus one you expected.
Definitely an underdog made it far. Really far. A lot farther than people thought. So,
and
kudos to that.
And I think it has a fighting chance, to be honest. It's so hard to compare the two. Not even remotely.
Now, the last Alien matchup, you're like, this is hard. This one's even further.
Yeah.
Because the element is people doing this.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, supernatural or unnatural thing. It's just like, people are doing this.
Right.
So to me, that's even more horrific. In some ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's, again, Get Out is so layered. There's so many things about it that make it great.
Mm-hmm.
The horror elements are not as strong as they are in Alien.
Right.
But everything else it does, establishing characters, the message of the movie or messages, just the different twist on what can be horror, the kind of mystery box of it where it's like, what am I even like? What?
Right.
Something terrifying is going on, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and it takes a long time to figure that out.
And the unknown is scary.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Not a matchup I thought we'd have in the final two.
Yeah.
If I'm honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, not a matchup I thought we'd have at all.
Yeah.
Like you just don't think of them in the same. Like to me, Hereditary, Get Out was a logical.
That would have been a fun one to have.
Matchup. But yeah, this one's tough. I love both of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
I do think we're gonna look back, 20 years from now, and Get Out's gonna be a movie we still talk about as, oh man, when that came out, that just changed the whole genre. And I felt like Alien did that, and so it's hard to, it's hard to compare.
One's earlier in its legacy than the other.
But I do think it's gonna have a legacy that is lasting. I'm kind of just on the fence at the moment.
I'm not really on the fence, but it is a weird argument to have between these two. I do think we have to factor legacy in here.
Yeah.
Again, 20 years from now, let's see what Jordan Peele's filmography is.
Yeah.
And, obviously Ridley Scott has a very different sort of filmography. He's all over the place.
He doesn't know what he wants.
Jordan Peele is very singular at this point. essentially just like message horror films.
Yeah.
Some scarier than others.
Yep.
I think, not that I'm making an argument against him for this, but I think Get Out is his least scary movie of his three.
I would agree. I definitely had more fear in Us.
But it's also probably his best. Right. I mean, I think it is his best.
Yeah.
But again,
I think the slightest edge goes Alien.
I agree.
And again, when we do these brackets, right, there is one movie in the back of our minds on all of these that you're like, it's probably going to be there at the end. And again, if we remove it from existence, this list is very different. Meaning none of these are even, a lot of them are not made probably.
Yeah.
And so it's just like a horror bracket. One of these staples has to win. And I just don't think Get Out has been out long enough for it to claim that over Alien. If something else made it, maybe.
Yeah. If we're having this bracket 20 years from now, maybe it's a different
20
argument.
years from today, we will have this bracket again.
Mark it.
And see if it moves up or.
Yeah, this is interesting because, like you said, I think it was more of a subconscious, like in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Because like the other brackets, I definitely had like front runners in mind.
Yeah.
And depending on how matchups and how arguments went.
I mean, our last two brackets, I knew I was going to try my best to get the ones that won to win.
Yeah.
Regardless of their matchup. But this one was a little more up in there.
This one, I didn't know I would argue for Alien all the way through.
Me either. But I think Alien wins. I think it has to.
I think it does.
All right. We have our winner, Will.
We have it, Travis.
Alien is the champion.
The greatest horror movie ever made.
And our list is truth, and there's nothing else in the world.
To the bank. No.
And if you take anything from this podcast, that's all I want you to remember from this podcast. Not who won.
Yeah.
But space is the Antarctica of the sky.
Winners come and go, but quotes,
they last forever.
They last forever. There it is, Travis.
That's it.
That was a good one.
That was fun. That was fun. I liked it.
That one I had kind of topsy-turvy, had no idea where it was going.
Had no idea, and it's a good way to close out our bracket series.
Yeah.
And move on to something new.
Yeah, for sure. Was really fun. Enjoyed the bracket discussion, but like you said, let's do something different here.
Let's do it.
Love our champions.
Yep.
Alien definitely worthy here.
Yep.
But that's just our opinion. What do you guys think? Did we screw up royally? We probably did. We probably broke a lot of your brackets in your head.
Yeah, you might have stopped watching round one.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments how badly we screwed up. What movies were on your list that weren't on our bracket at all? What should have made the final that didn't? Leave the comments below the video. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, join us on the Cinema Clubhouse podcast.